Hey guys, welcome to Harry Dating Convos. And on today's show, my guest is Lee Povey. He is a leadership coach, the founder of Lee Povey Coaching, and the former national sprint coach for Team USA Cycling. He's coached world champions, CEOs, and elite teams. And now he helps other high-achieving men do the same, leading with empathy, building better relationships, and showing up fully in both dating and relationships. He also hosts his own men's group, which I'm very curious to ask about. And also he is here today to talk about how men can be more self-aware, emotionally intelligent, redefining what it means to be masculine in today's world, and also dating as a man on the spectrum. Lee, welcome to the show.
Hey, Harry. Thanks for inviting me.
Actually, appreciate you coming on today. So I always start off by asking my guests, what was it like for you growing up dating? And then how did you improve in that realm?
So I'm old. I'm 52. So dating for me predates internet dating. If you wanted to meet a girl, you had to go to a nightclub. So that's what we did in the UK. We went to bars, nightclubs. A little bit different culture there to here in America. So I started going clubbing. The very first time I went clubbing was 14, and I was regularly clubbing when I was kind of 16, 17. Yeah, I see your raised eyebrows. It is different there. I had a fake ID that was my birth certificate that I'd photocopied, Tipexed out my age and written it in, and they just didn't care.
Wow, no, here it's like 18 to get into a club. So it's just, I'm so interested to hear like 14. Like, what's it like clubbing at 14?
I had no idea what I was doing, but because of kind of how we were brought up, I was a lot more independent. I would be going out riding my bike at 10 years old. I was riding my bike to school at kind of 10, 11 and walking to school with my friends at that age. So it kind of forces you to grow up quicker because you're just a lot more independent because of the times than now, where we drive our kids to school. We tell them the world is this unbelievably dangerous place. And it's one of the reasons we've got problems now with people taking risks. Walking up to somebody and saying, hey, you're interested and I'd like to know more about you is a risk. Whereas I got to practice that all the time, and I'm going out to clubs, I'm meeting women, and it still felt scary, but it was much more socially acceptable and easier for us to go up to women and say, hey, you're cute. I'd like to know more about you.
Yeah, there was no fear of like not necessarily the embarrassment part, but like being filmed and then having it go viral. Like, this guy tried to hit on me and get rejected. Like, oh my God. No. Can you imagine? Like, oh my God.
I feel so lucky that I haven't had to live through that until my prefrontal cortex works properly, because I just don't know how. I coached a lot of younger athletes that have gone through this, and they are so thoughtful about how they use social media from a young age, because they see other people mess up and they go, I don't want to be that person. Just even the way they use the apps. They'll use apps where the conversation disappears, or they use apps where it's harder for things to be screenshotted because they don't want to fall into those mistakes.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that happens a lot today. So, okay, so you were dating it. So you were clubbing at 14. When did your were you also dating at that time? Like, when did you get your first girlfriend or your first
So my first girlfriend, looking back now, I'm not sure that term's correct, but the first girl that I kind of met and I called my girlfriend, I think I was either 15 or 16, and it was a girl I met through school. And then my first proper girlfriend was about a year later. That first one lasted maybe 3 months or something. And obviously I had a few crushes on girls at school. And then I met a girl nightclubbing. So I met a girl in the club when I was 16, and we started dating pretty seriously and dated for about 2.5 years.
Okay. And then what was dating like for you at that time? Were there struggles? Were there situations you got into that maybe you weren't prepared for? Like, what was your dating journey like through like the course of your teenage years leading into your 20s and stuff?
I primarily had long-term dating. So I dated a girl for 2.5 years, then another couple of shorter relationships, and I dated a woman on and off for 9 years. And then kind of in between that had these periods of kind of high levels of promiscuity and going out and meeting as many women as possible, and honestly feeling pretty empty. So I definitely had insecurities about feeling lovable, and I would go to a club or a bar and think, if I didn't meet a woman and take her home, that there was something wrong with me. And it was like I kept testing myself of, right, if I don't take somebody home, then that means I'm not lovable. Yeah, I do it. And invariably the next day think, why did I do that?
Wow, that's powerful. Now, when I went to your Instagram, I noticed you had a post that mentioned that you were on the spectrum. How did that play into like your dating choices or the way you maneuvered, if at all?
Yeah, so I only fairly recently discovered it. I've spent a lot of my life feeling somewhat misunderstood. And I think my journey with therapy started very young. So I started seeing a therapist in my early 20s, pretty unusual for a guy in the UK, and especially a guy in the UK in that time period. That's also when I got introduced to men's groups through my therapist. And I had a strongly narcissistic sociopathic father. So part of it was trying to figure out kind of who I am, and I didn't want to be like him. And I was in a men's group called MKP, Mankind Project, and their ethos was breaking the chain. And that really appealed to me of like, I don't want to carry on his behavior, but I'm not sure what that means I do want to do. So I knew that I was a little bit different, and I wasn't sure why, and I would often be misunderstood by people. So I'd go out with my friends, and this is the autism thing now. I'd go out with my friends. I didn't drink. I was an athlete, and I didn't like being out of control in that way. I didn't like being drunk, and I would get a lot of pressure. I've always been really good at not succumbing to peer pressure, and I think that's partly an autistic thing of I need to be comfortable and safe. So I know where all the exits are. I know how everything's set up, and I kind of investigate everything. Even now when I go on holiday, I read every review of the hotel. I want to know what my physical experience is going to be like. And, weird things like I can be quite touchy, as in like I like hugs, and I like, I'm not afraid of physical contact, but it has to be on my terms. So I can't have somebody, if I'm lying down, I can't have my wife lie on top of me. I really don't like it. And really, until recently, not realizing what that meant. So, her lying next to me and cuddling on the sofa, great. If she puts her arm over me, I just can't handle it. I'm like, no, I can't do that. And not knowing why I felt different like that. And partners would be like, well, that's a bit weird. And I'm like, all I can tell you is I don't like it, but I didn't know why I didn't like it. So touching has to be on my terms, for example. And it's hard to kind of think back to those times and like how it really impacted me. I just know I felt a bit different from everybody else. And there was ways that I needed to be safe that weren't the norm.
Interesting. It's funny because like once you become knowledgeable of that, it's like you have to go back and recontextualize. Wait a minute. So when this happened, and then I felt this way, or this thing happened, it's like, oh my God. Like, so when you had that aha moment of those things, once you figured out that what was going on, like, did that affect you in any kind of way?
I mean, I've only really fully unpacked that in the last 2 or 3 years. So I only got diagnosed when I was 49. I'm 52 now. Okay. I just knew I was different, but I didn't know why. And then you kind of look at yourself and you think, am I broken? Like, what's kind of wrong with me? Why do I struggle to have some relationships in a way that I would like? And there's things I just have to be really particular about. And even just, while we're talking about that period going to nightclubs, I'd often feel uncomfortable in there. There was too much light, there was too much noise, and my friends are taking drugs and having a great time, and I'm kind of stepping back like a wallflower and watching it all. And I'm enjoying the people watching. Like, I love people watching. I love going to big cities. Japan's my favorite country. I love going to Tokyo and Osaka and just watching it all. But I like to sit back and observe it. And I would get comments from friends like, you're not having fun and you need to join in more. And I would say I am having fun, but maybe my demeanor would to them appear like I wasn't, because I wasn't doing the same stuff as what was societally acceptable, e.g. getting drunk in the UK, whereas I didn't need that to have a good time. And I didn't need that to be able to talk to other people. So it's interesting. I've always found it very easy to talk to other people. However, I hate small talk. So if it becomes a small talk conversation, I'm like, I'm out of there. So at that period, I was also a salesman. I was working in real estate, and I got very good at talking to women. I'm very comfortable with it, but I would talk to them probably more like another woman would talk to them, because I would talk to them like, I want to know about you, and I want you to tell me like how you feel and stuff like that. The other guys weren't necessarily having those kind of conversations. And it almost turned into, I would coach my friends, and I'd kind of have mentor my friends on how to talk to women, because they were reading all the pickup stuff and doing all the negging stuff. And it's like, it's not working. And they didn't have the level of charisma, and it just wasn't working. I'm like, just talk to her like you would talk to me. Talk to her like a human being. And when I was having that promiscuous stage, I'd be unbelievably blunt. I'd go up to a girl, start talking to her, and I would say, like, look, I'm not looking for anything serious. I'd love to take you home. Are you interested? And it was surprising how often girls would be like, yeah, I'm horny too. I'm a human being. Right? I'll come home with you. I never had to lie about it. And I'd watch all my friends, like, they'd try to lie about their career and say, like, I'm a fireman or some bullshit like that. Or they'd try to lie to get this woman to sleep with them. I'd be saying, you don't need to do that. Just be honest about who you are and what you want, and let that person make an adult decision.
And plus, they kind of already know your motives anyway. Like, at that, especially like the older they get, they kind of know if a guy's approaching them, they don't have to, I mean, they kind of already know that the guy wants that to happen. So to be like, to try to act like the guy that's like, oh no, I just really want to get to know you as a person. I really care about you. And it's like, you don't even know me. Just what do you really actually want? Like,
and I did both. I genuinely wanted to get to know him as a person, and I was honest about what I wanted. And I think that made me pretty successful.
Yeah, no, that's good. So you're married now. I have various questions I want to ask with pertaining to your wife, but in particular for this particular segment, once you found out that you were on the spectrum, did that affect your marriage in terms of like once you knew that was happening, how did that affect like maybe things in the past with your marriage, then how that helped going forward?
Yeah. It's been really useful for me and my wife. So things that she would judge as me being impolite or very kind of rigid in my behavior, now we can look at it and go, it's about me needing to be safe. So her family is quite chaotic. So when they're deciding to do something, like there's discussions backwards and forwards for an hour and a half about, well, should we go here? Should we go there? Should we do this? I just can't cope with that. So I have to remove myself. I even need to make the decision for everybody and say, right, I've heard everyone's opinions. This is what we're doing. This is the most effective option. I've heard everything. Let's go. And then everyone went, but are you sure? And then it would all start back up again. So the easiest thing for me typically is to remove myself, and I would kind of become disengaged, and my wife would think that I was being rude and I didn't care about them and I didn't want to be engaged with them because of them. And it's like, no, I can't be around that kind of messiness. I need to make a decision, stick with the decision. I was walking with my wife. We just got back from a weekend in London at a friend's wedding. We were walking through London and she kept wanting to stop and do stuff. And I'm like, but we're walking and we've got to get here. It's like that kind of change of the plan. And we're both laughing about it, but that kind of change of the plan can be awkward for me and a little bit kind of challenging for me, even though I'm saying, let's walk through London because I want you to experience it. And she's not really spent a lot of time in London. And obviously I have. And I'm like, there's all these things I want to show you. And then she's stopping to look at them. And I'm like, come on, there's a plan. We got to get... Just so stupid, Harry.
It's like the goal is the walking.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like you have a pathway. Like the pathway is to go here, and it's like these stops are like, what are you doing? It's like it'd be very, very distracting.
I was noticing we were walking across this bridge, and I walk quite fast, and we've caught this couple up in front of us, and we pass them, and then she wants to stop and take pictures. I'm like, but they're going to come past us, and she's like, what is wrong with you? Who cares that this other couple? But I'm like, we got ahead of them. Like we're on our journey, so. It's allowed us to have more levity with it. So now we can kind of laugh at it a bit. And she understands why I need certain things to be the way that I need them to be. And it's really helped our relationship a lot. And, we watch clips on YouTube of it. And, at a similar kind of time, she got diagnosed earlier, but she's really got more interested in it. My wife's also got ADHD. And I would judge a lot of her behaviors. There isn't a thing in the house that has a lid on properly. Every cupboard is open, right? There's stuff on the floor. It's either immaculate or there's stuff all over the place. She has like this massive kind of burst of energy. Everything's immaculate, or there's like cups in the wrong place. I used to get very annoyed about it. Now, because I understand the way her brain works and that she's got 100 tabs open at any time. So she can't quite finish something because she's moving on to the next thing. Now that I understand that, I'll just walk around and I'll close cupboards and I'll put lids on and I'll pick up glasses. And it's not she's doing this to piss me off. It's like, this is how her brain works. Now I have that empathy. It's just much easier for me to do it It doesn't actually, it's not a lot of effort. And I understand it's not personal. It's not like she's trying to wind me up. It's not personal. Once you understand that, and that's what she's doing with me, is she's understanding that the safety that I need isn't personal. That's what I need to be okay. And once I have that, life is easier for me, and I can be more open, and I can be more in connection, but I've got to have this safety first.
Yeah, I think it's interesting once you get an understanding of how somebody else is, and for whatever reason that it is, I think part of the frustration before that knowledge is taking everything so personally. They're personally doing this thing to try to attack me or to annoy me. And it's like, the general thought is like, if you're in a loving relationship, the other person is not purposely trying to do that. So then what are the other explanations? And then once you get those, it's like, oh, okay. And then both your brains can kind of relax. It's just like, okay, this isn't a personal thing. It's just chemically, this is how things are. So it is what it is.
Yeah. And I think I would look at it as though the disorder was not deliberate. I would judge it to be a lack of care. So I wouldn't think, oh, she's doing this deliberately to piss me off. But what I would think is she doesn't care that this pisses me off. Whereas now I know that she really can't do anything about it. It's not a choice. It's not a lack of care. It's that she genuinely doesn't see it. She's on to the next thing, and she hasn't realized that she hasn't closed that cupboard door. Whereas I see everything. One of the things for me, I don't know if this is me or the autism or whatever, I spot everything. And that in itself can be challenging because it's exhausting. So the other thing I have to be aware of is I need lots of rest. So I can work at very high capacity levels, and then I need rest. I'm really good at what I do and the coaching because I can see so much about what's going on for you as a human being. And I need to make sure that I don't overextend myself because then I can get really tired. It's called autistic burnout. And now that I understand more about that, it's easier for me to take the rest. And it's also easier for my wife to see me resting.
Interesting. Now, for people listening to this that are like, they're either on the spectrum or maybe they're just finding out for the first time, what are some things that they can do going forward with like say they figured out like in their 20s, like they're not late, but like 20 years old, they figured out, oh, I had this thing. What things do they need to be aware of when they're dating to have a better experience and to make sure that their partners are understanding of them going forward?
I think like anything in life, like the work I do with leaders, you can't have effective relationships with other people if you don't understand yourself. So, my wish is people would spend more time figuring out themselves. And then it's much easier to go, well, this is what I need. This is what makes me feel safe. This is what makes me feel loved. This is how I express my love. If you don't know those things about yourself, when you're not getting your needs met, you just get frustrated and you blame the other person instead of going, I'm not clearly communicating what I need. And I'm not clearly saying these are the things I need to get my needs met. May I talk about a little tool that I think is useful for people at this time?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so I like to help people think about the difference between content and context. So we spend a lot of time in our lives talking about content. So we're having an argument and we're arguing about this thing, and both of us think, this is stupid, this argument is stupid, I don't even know why we're arguing, because we're arguing about the content. So if we give an example, me and you agreed to meet for dinner. We agreed to meet at 6:00. I turn up at 6:00. I'm waiting there. You turn up at 6:15. You come in. I'm like, why are you late? And you're like, it's only 15 minutes, mate. It's not a big deal. And I'm like, well, I've been waiting here for 15 minutes. We're arguing about the time. The context is I felt lonely. I felt that you didn't care for me. Your context might be, oh God, I've had an unbelievably stressful day. I'm trying as hard as I can to get here. And it's just another person having a go at me. I'm letting another person down. I'm a failure. So that's the thing that we should be sharing with each other. If I say, hey, the impact on me when you turn up late is I feel like I'm not important to you. And I'm not blaming you. That's just how I feel. And you say, man, my life is so busy right now and I'm really struggling to get here and to do the things I've got to do. And I'm overwhelmed and I could really do with some support. We're now two human beings talking to each other about what is going on for us. And it's much easier for us to meet us there. When we're two human beings arguing about the 15 minutes, nothing ever gets solved.
Interesting. So really giving each other the grace to say, hey, before you just lash out at me, let me explain what the internal feeling actually is beyond just the surface stuff.
Yeah. And it's not being defensive. It's having curiosity and empathy. What is going on for the other person, and how I explain it to people in relationships. And this is work relationships, familiar relationships, romantic relationships. What is the need that other person has that you haven't seen? So, the need for me in that instance would be, I don't want to feel alone. Like, my need is I want to be in connection with you. And when I'm sitting here by myself, I feel alone and I feel unimportant. And the need for you, if you're like overwhelmed, is like, you need to be seen, and you need somebody to understand that your life is busy, and you need some grace of like, I can't show up as I might want to because I'm overwhelmed. I need support. And when we can meet there and see that need that the other person has and ask them, hey, what's going on for you? Like, so it's unusual for you to turn up 15 minutes late, Harry. What's going on? And you're like, oh man, I'm so busy and I'm stressed. And then we're having a conversation as human beings rather than kind of like little children and our survival mechanisms meeting each other where I've got to be right. If you're trying to be right in a conversation, most of the time, you're not actually going to be in connection.
Now, a lot of that, though, it takes being able to think about things from another person's perspective, and also having the emotional intelligence to be like, but wait, maybe there's something deeper going on here.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of people in general, but particularly men, struggle with emotional intelligence, being able to actually see something from their partner's perspective and, take things in. Like, why do you think that's such a problem for men in particular with regards to being able to see something from another person's perspective?
Because we're trained out of it. So my experience as a young man was I was told, don't be weak, don't be a pussy, don't have feelings, stiff upper lip in the UK of like, we don't give away what we're feeling. I was running down a hill as a little kid. I tripped up. I cut my ear. I didn't even know. I had like a big duffel coat on and I hurt myself. And my mom was like, don't cry. First it was like, don't run, you're going to hurt yourself. And then when I did, it was like, well, I told you, and don't cry about it. And I get home and she's giving me a bath and my ear is hanging off and I have to go and have 12 stitches. And I'm not crying about it because I'm told not to cry about it. So we get that kind of societal message about don't have feelings. And then we get the media message of the stoic, misunderstanding what stoic actually means, but the representation of like this silent man. You think about the film Drive, and the protagonist in Drive doesn't speak for the first 45 minutes and just commits acts of violence. That's it. And that's meant to be what a man is. That's not the experience I have with men in men's groups, and that's not the experience I have in my life. So we get trained out of feelings. Men and women have the same feelings, the same responses as children, and then we train men out of it. We do women too, but not to the same extent we do with men. And there's some areas where it's okay as a woman, right? It's okay for you to be afraid as a woman. It's not okay for you to be afraid as a man. And men also get afraid of their anger. And they're told, like their anger is bad. And we, because what we see in society is anger leads to violence, we get afraid to be angry because we think it means we're going to have to get violent. Instead of anger just tells me where my boundaries are. Anger gives me energy to get some stuff done. So the way I teach men when I work with them one-to-one and when I work with them in groups is there's 6 feelings: fear, joy, anger, sadness, interest, and disgust. And I want you to understand, what is it I am feeling right now? And what does that tell me as data? And feelings are neither bad nor good. It just is what I'm experiencing in this moment. And what can it tell me? And how can I make then the cognitive choices from what this emotional part of me is telling me? And it's knowing that you can move from this kind of emotional, more childlike, animalistic place to the cognitive place of, I get choice. And there's a bit of space between the two. And how do I have my emotional experience? How do I have my reactive experience? And then how do I pause? What is this telling me? And go to, okay, what are the choices I'd like to make now? And for me, that is what emotional intelligence is. And the good thing about emotional intelligence is it's super trainable. It's really easy to get better at it. It just needs practice and an understanding of it's a skill. Cognitive intelligence is fixed. Right? It's the computer in your brain. You have a certain size computer and computing capacity that only diminishes over age. You can't improve it. You can obviously learn, skilled sets, but your cognitive ability is fixed. Your emotional intelligence ability is completely and utterly trainable and coachable.
And it's funny because I think a lot of guys buy into the lie that just the way they are is the way they are, and they can't learn. It's because I've heard so many guys be like, because, you know, on my channel, I'll talk to guys about stuff like, hey, if you get angry or upset, you can feel that, but here's how you can actually like do it in a positive way where the woman you're with gets that you're upset and you want to, you know, change things, but you're not like yelling at or lashing out. And guys will just be like, but I'm not being authentic. And where it's like, that's all, even how you being authentic is learned behavior. Like you can learn new behavior.
I'm not being authentic. Oh man. Look, you get to have an emotional response. That's being authentic. And you also have to understand it has an impact. And if you're a man and typically bigger than your female partner, because men are typically bigger than women, there is a physical power dynamic there that is going to have a negative impact on your partner if you're not conscious of it. And, you know, I very rarely shout, and my wife will be like, why are you shouting at me? I'm not shouting, but I'm just bigger than her. And she will perceive me like being animated as me being angrier than I am. And as a physical threat to her. So on some level, she is feeling that as a physical threat because I am much bigger than her and I could physically threaten her. So we have to be aware of that as men. And that doesn't mean you can't be angry. You know, I hate this kind of thing of, oh, we mustn't be angry. You can be angry. And it's okay for me to say, hey, I'm feeling angry right now, right? This conversation is leaving me feeling angry. It's then what I choose to do with the anger that matters.
True. Now, interesting what you said earlier about how like we get trained out of feeling our emotions. And I think about the fact that because today, like women today will say, you know, oh, I want a man that's more in tune and I want a man that's more emotional and blah, blah, blah. And yet and still more often than not, men will get punished by women for trying to show more caring emotions, you know, like trying to be over complimentary or trying to like, you know, whatever you want to do, I'll do, honey, whatever. Like those men actually still get punished for that. And so I think there's something to be said for like, how can men show emotion in a way that isn't like, you know, being angry. I mean, not like yelling or smashing things, but also isn't so docile that women are feeling like the man's actually a woman for the way he's trying to express them.
Yeah. A great question that we're all still pondering. How I see it, Harry, is that it's okay to have your emotional experience and talk about what you're feeling. I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding with women where they expect a man to have an emotional intelligence. And what they're really saying is, I want you to understand my emotions. However, I don't want to deal with your emotions. So if we're truly going to be able to go, okay, well, I'm going to have emotions and I'm going to understand your emotions. Well, that means I need to understand my emotions too. And I need to understand what's going on for me. And that means I need to be comfortable with my vulnerability and asking what I need for. You, my female partner, you got to step up there too. One of the reasons I'm married to my wife is because she was one of the few female partners I had that could meet me at that level, that could say, I get your feelings and I get your vulnerability and I'm here to support you. The woman that I was dating before was a lovely woman. I really loved her. However, I broke my shoulder really badly in 2010, and it was the first time in my life I was super vulnerable. I thought I was indestructible. I'd had plenty of crashes before. This time, it didn't go as I wanted it to, and I broke 4 bones in my shoulder. I couldn't use my left arm properly for 7 months, had to have 2 reconstructive surgeries, and I felt different as a man. I was walking down the road thinking if somebody attacked us, I couldn't defend us now, and I'd never even thought about that. That hadn't actually been a thought until suddenly it was, and I was depressed. I couldn't do the things that I liked doing. I liked doing sport. I was an elite athlete. I was a national champion at the time. It was 10 days before the national championships. I couldn't defend my national championships. So I had this huge shift, and she didn't know how to meet me there. The world worked well when I was in the hero position, kind of one above. She was in the victim position, and she could come to me with her problems. When I went to her, it was like I suddenly became unattractive. And neither of us liked how that relationship went. So now, after that, and in my dating after that, I was looking for who can meet me on the same level, who can allow for my emotional experience. So I think there needs to be a bit of a reckoning from women of, if you want this thing, well, then you also need to be comfortable. But I think it's what we're looking for is for people not to put themselves as the victim. So instead of putting themselves in the victim, right, I have all these emotions and it's your fault and you need to rescue me. That's what no one is looking for, right? No man is looking at that from a woman, or at least no healthy man is. And no healthy woman is looking for that from a man. And I think that's where we make the mistake is we assume that it's your job to rescue. And men are asking women to rescue them instead of stepping up and taking self-responsibility. And, we're seeing this in society. There's a lot of angry young men right now who are, choosing what I think is fairly abhorrent behavior that people label as toxic masculinity. I prefer to call it immature masculinity because I want there to be the opportunity to let's change that behavior and let's help you change that behavior rather than saying you're broken and wrong. Let's say, there's an opportunity here for you to be different, and here's the impact of your poor choices. So I want us to be thinking about how do we help men become more mature, take more responsibility, while also having the vulnerability to say, I need support. But instead of coming from the victim of I'm blaming everybody else for my circumstances, I'm taking responsibility for my circumstances. I'm taking responsibility for where I am in the world. And I could also do with some support. And I could also do with being recognized. Does that make sense, Alonso? I'm sorry.
I wonder if that's the key too of like the idea that, men can be vulnerable, but it's like if they're coming from a position of I'm being vulnerable, I'm a victim versus I'm being vulnerable, I'm trying to work this out, need some help, but I'm not blaming anybody. Yes.
Perfectly summed up. Just forget what I said in the last 5 minutes and you summed it up in one sentence.
Well, I'm trying to think from a women's perspective. It's like if the, if a woman's been in a position where like maybe in the past she was open to a guy's vulnerability, but he was using his vulnerability in a way to where he was trying to make her the victim and other people the victim and not looking at his self-responsibility. I can see how that could get tiring for a woman over time.
Absolutely. It'd get tiring for any human being. Right? Nobody wants to, or nobody who's healthy wants to be in these relationships where there's a one up, one down. Like I'm better than you, you're broken, or I'm broken and you're here to rescue me. And before I'd done my work, I would put myself in these relationships where I was a hero and I dated somebody who needed rescuing. But then I would resent the fact that I'm always having to rescue that other person and there's no room for my emotional needs.
That makes sense. I found that early on too. Like so my mom always said, like you take people as they are, you can't change them and stuff like that. So if I saw somebody that was already like trying to pull the whole, I need it, like damsel in distress to like a fault, I'm already like, this ain't gonna work out because I'm not, but my goal is not to try to be the complete reason for your happiness, because if I do something wrong, I'm also the complete reason for your sadness, and this can't be a thing.
Yeah. And nobody should ever be the reason for anybody's happiness. It should be, I'm in control. I take responsibility for my joy in this world. And I hope that by being with you, I feel more of that joy. But I'm not making you responsible. You see on dating sites all the time, women will say things like, I want a guy to make me laugh. And I get that you want to have joy with a person, but it's not their job to make you laugh. He's not a clown, right? He's not an entertainer. He's a partner. And you should be doing things together that make both of you laugh rather than it's your job to entertain me.
Now, you said with the previous relationship, she ended up being somebody that when the chips were down for you, she couldn't be there. So how as a guy can you predetermine that the person you're getting with is going to be that person? Like you met your wife, how are you able to tell without, let's say in the moment you meet her, you're not going through anything. How can you tell if she's going to be that person that will be there for you versus somebody that's going to be like, you're not the hero now, so I'm out?
Because of the level of her emotional intelligence, number one. I married a therapist. There's a reason I married a therapist.
Nice.
Because that's where I was in the world, right? I was at that level of emotional intelligence. I need somebody that can meet me there, that has that self-understanding and understanding of others. So for me, there's kind of a language thing to it. Can you have these conversations with somebody that are more meaningful, that are deeper? And when somebody's in distress, do they make it about you and it's your fault or it's your responsibility to fix it? Or do they say, this is what I'm experiencing, this is how I could do with being supported, and this is how I'm going to fix it, this is how I'm going to take responsibility? So there's a thing called Cartman's drama triangle, which is a great way of thinking about this. And there's 3 positions on the drama triangle: 2 up positions, which are hero and persecutor, 1 down position, which is the victim. And You should look this up. You should watch videos on it. It's a great way of being able to understand the relationships you're in. So any listener, please investigate this and read about it. And there's some good videos on it by the Conscious Leadership Group breaking this down. It's a model that allows you to go, am I in a relationship where I need to be the hero and this person needs to be the victim? Because then what will happen is, as you said, if you can't meet their needs, if you can't fix the problem for them, then they become the persecutor and now you become the victim. And they're like, you're letting me down. You're the reason that my life is a failure. You're the reason that I'm not happy. And instead, we want people to take responsibility and to go, I'm responsible for my happiness. You're not. And we see this as this kind of weird version of romance where we make other people responsible for our happiness and we put so much pressure on each other in relationships. You've got to be my everything. You know, I really strongly believe it's important in relationships. We have our own friends. We have our own hobbies. We're not just making that other person absolutely reliable for our well-being, because it's a ridiculous thing to do. And it's a ridiculous strain on a relationship and a ridiculous strain on our partner.
And it's funny because I see so many guys get into relationships and, you know, before they were a freewheeling guy, they were doing whatever. And then they get into a relationship and then they, not the woman, they are suddenly like, I'm always spending time with her. If she does something with her friends, I want to be there. I want to keep tabs on her. And I just don't understand, because I'm introverted. I'm just like, I need time to myself. And I know my partner does. Like, why would I be all of a sudden be like, now that I'm with somebody, I'm going to change up and need to be around them all the time?
You can't see it, but I've got over here out of our screenshot for people that are watching us on YouTube and for people listening, I've got a new sofa that turned up 2 days ago, big screen TV. I'm waiting for some hi-fi equipment. I have my escape room so that if I get overwhelmed, like when people are visiting or even with my wife, I can come here and I can chill and I can take some time to myself. I think having time by yourself for most people is really, really important. It allows you to recharge, come back into the relationship with more energy. You know, this belief that we've got to spend all our time together, typically for me, that comes from an insecurity of, oh, what will my partner do if I'm not there? And usually they're just going to go on with their life and be happy. You know, it's this insecurity of, oh, they're going to sleep with somebody else or someone else is going to flirt with them. And as men, we've got to be a little bit stronger there to go, I'm choosing you. I trust this partner to show up how we've agreed in the relationship, like whatever our boundaries are around flirting and dating other people, whatever we've agreed, if we're monogamous, this is what it looks like. And I'm going to trust you to show up like that until you break my trust, instead of I'm not going to trust you and I'm going to make my life around like keeping tabs on you the whole time. We need to take responsibility for that as men and not behave like that, because it's destructive to ourselves and to the relationship.
And plus, you usually ended up talking into existence something you didn't want. Like the woman had no intention of cheating, but you kept putting it on her until it was just like, oh, you cheated. It's like, yeah, you've been saying that I was going to cheat for like 7 years. So it happened, but it's like, but you kind of caused that to happen by not trusting the first. It's a weird thing, but
well, and just like you've made the relationship so uncomfortable. Of course I cheated because I want to get away from you. Right? Men typically cheat because they're bored, they're horny. Like it's a thing that they do for excitement. Women typically cheat because they're unhappy in the relationship. So if a woman's going to cheat, it's because the relationship isn't good. It's a sign that the relationship isn't good.
True. Now, obviously, on your site, you talk about, you know, you do life coaching, you coach men, and one of the things you do is you have a men's group. Tell me about what it is that you do in the men's group. Actually, start off with like, how did you even get into life coaching in the first place? And then what made you start a men's group?
Yeah. So my particular brand of coaching, high performance leadership coach, my favorite engagements, and these are pretty much the only ones I do now, is I work for scale up companies. I coach the founder, the executive team, and key players, and I coach them on themselves. Like, how do you show up? What do you bring to work? What's the leadership skills that you need to work on? And then I coach them on the relationship dynamics of how do you get on with the other people and what's getting in the way of you guys getting on in a more effective way. So some culture work and then some group work of this is how Bob thinks. This is what motivates Bob. What you're doing is demotivating him. If you want to be more effective, try this approach. And I love that. It's complex work and it lights my brain up. And then the other thing that I do is I do men's groups. So I have a variety of men's groups going right now because I think it's super important. And it was, as we discussed earlier, something that's been really formative to me as a guy that grew up without a healthy male role model. I was searching for those, and they were happening with friends, but they weren't really the relationships I wanted. And typically when I was younger, it was more about like, how do I talk to women and date, instead of like, how do I show up as a whole human being? So the therapist that I met as a young man was into men's groups, kept recommending it to me. I'm like, that sounds weird. I don't want to do that. Broke me down over about 6 months, and I went on this kind of discovery weekend, changed my life. Like, I got to spend time with a group of men. Before that, men were people that I did sport with, or I went out and met women with, but I didn't really have the level of friendship that I wanted. I didn't know how to have them. I didn't know how to be in kind of loving relationships with men. So I learned that in these groups, and I learned how to communicate, and I learned how to have conflict in a way that was caring instead of conflict in a way that was threatening, and just elevate my experiences with men. So I think it's super important. I wish every man has this opportunity. It was incredible for me. I couldn't date the wife that I have now without having had that experience, without having to learn so much more about myself and how to understand how to be with other people. And I have wonderful friendships with men now because of that experience. I wouldn't have those friendships had it not been for that experience. And during COVID, I actually created a men's group for myself and my friends because we were, struggling and life was weird and chaotic. And that group still goes now. That's my friendship group. And every Wednesday morning we meet at 6:30. So I just think men's work is really important. It's not what fires me up as my daily profession. It's what I do because I think it's important to give back to men and to the community. I do that at a much lower rate than the corporate coaching that I do because I think it's really important. And how I do these men's groups is, it's kind of typically 8 to 9 guys. It's all on Zoom, and I facilitate it. And then between us, we create the experience that this group of men want to have.
It was interesting. I was having a conversation earlier where I was talking about how a lot of men's spaces seem to be getting taken away or taken over by women. Like you have your Boy Scouts that's now gone. There's different men's situations where it's like at one point it was just all men and the women came in. Why do you feel it's so important for men to have a space where just men are and are able to connect with each other?
I think it's important for both sexes to have those spaces. I just think women are better at it than the men. Women are much better at making friends. They're much better at having relationships that focus on the friendship. Men typically have relationships that focus on doing things. So that might be going to watch a sport. That might be going and playing a sport. Even when men sit in a bar with each other, they tend to sit side by side and they face the bar and watch a TV screen. Women will sit at a table and face each other. So men have these side-by-side relationships. Women have these facing relationships where they have to talk about themselves in a relationship, whereas men are talking about a sport, or they're talking about their job, or they're talking about something that's not necessarily them or how they feel. Yet we need that. So going back to the men get trained out of feelings, we still have these feelings. We just don't know what to do with them. We don't understand them. We kind of try to push them down, and they move from being feelings to moods, right? We become that grumpy, angry guy or that sad and depressed guy instead of having a feeling. Should be pretty short-lived, should be a few seconds to a few minutes. Then we kind of go, oh, okay, I kind of regulate myself again. I've moved past that feeling, be that joy, be that anger, be that fear, be it whatever it is. And because men typically don't develop that and have that kind of connection to their feelings, we get very scared of them. So we don't want to talk about them. We don't even know how to. We don't have the language. So what I'm doing is helping men have all of those experiences, have that language, understand what their feelings are telling them. And as I mentioned earlier, the way I talk about it to men is your feelings are data. Our brains are designed to have feelings. That's the way that we are wired, and we can ignore it, and we're ignoring a huge part of our human experience, or we can tap into it and go, what does this tell me? What does this tell me about the relationship that I'm in with somebody? What does that tell me about what I'm experiencing right now?
What have you found the impact has been on the people that have joined your men's groups?
Massive, huge. I very rarely have people leave the group. Once they're in and they've gone through the first 2 or 3 weeks where they're kind of figuring out what this thing is and it's all weird and different, they love it. And it's a space that men will often tell me is the highlight of their week. They get to spend 90 minutes with guys that they know more about than anyone else in their life. And have deeper connections with than almost anyone else other than maybe their romantic partner, because of what they're open to sharing in these groups. And it's always so fascinating for me. Guys come to the group and then week one is what brings you here. And, there'll be kind of fluffy stuff shared. And then one guy will go deep and then everybody else is like, oh, I can go that deep and I can talk about stuff like that. And I want to talk about it now and I want another go. Like, that stuff I told you a minute ago, let me go again, because here's the stuff I really want to tell. So when guys have that space and experience where they can really tell what's going on for them, most men have never had that in their lives. And it's completely life-changing when they find it and they can actually have it. And they can do it in a place where they're not going to get judged. One of the rules of the group is we don't judge each other. We typically don't give advice. There are times when guys will ask for advice, but we don't just jump in with you should do this and you should do that. It's you get to share of yourself and just be heard. And that's such a rare experience for humans, but especially for men.
Oh, yeah, because I imagine, men face a lot of pressure they got to show up and be the leader, and everything they do is like being judged on a hierarchy scale to where it's like, do you measure up to other guys that this person may know or whatnot? And so it becomes a very thing like your whole life is like numbers and rankings. And it's like sometimes it's nice just go and be like, I don't have it all together. And I just want to be able to just talk about that without being fear like I'm going to be seen as less than because I'm having issues.
Yeah. And everybody has issues and everybody has challenges and struggles. And when we start sharing that, there's like, you literally see the guys take this deep breath and kind of exhale and go, oh, I'm not alone. I will often stop somebody when they're in the middle of sharing and just pause them and say, I just want hands up who else has experienced this, who else is going through this. And often the majority of the guys will put their hands up and you see this person go, I'm not alone. Other guys experience this too. I'm not the only person who is having this issue. And it just completely changes them because they don't feel lonely. They don't feel useless. They don't feel broken. They're like, oh, other people experience this too.
Oh, that's so great. So great. So let people know where they can find out more about your work and how they can sign up for your men's group, your workshops, whatever else you have going on.
Yeah, I like to keep it simple, Harry. So everything is Lee Povey. So Lee Povey on Instagram, Lee Povey on LinkedIn, Lee Povey on Facebook, and my website is leepovey.com. And reach out to me. Like I'm especially here for men. I know that's the focus of your podcast. Just reach out to me. You want to talk to somebody, reach out to me, and I will put you in the right place. And if I don't have room for you in a group, I will find a group for you. I will help you. I just want human beings to have a better experience in this world. We have so much knowledge on how to make our lives more simple. And I want to get as much of it out there and give people the opportunity to have a better experience. You don't need to suffer. You can have a better experience.
Definitely. And I'm always advocate for like the more men that are out there helping men, because there's plenty of women that will like sign up and come onto the podcast and give advice. I always think that that's great because advice from anywhere is fantastic. But I love to have men on specifically to say, hey, this is what I do. This is how I help men. And this is the things that I've been through also that can help you out. So I definitely appreciate you coming onto the show, sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and sharing the resources that you have for men out there that may need more help.
Awesome. And I appreciate you and what you're doing, Harry. It's so vital.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in to Harry Dating Convos. Don't forget to visit HarryWilmington.com to download my free ebook, Texting Women Like a Boss. And while you're there, if you're ready to take things to the next level with your dating life, check out the Get Girls Academy membership program for exclusive strategies and live coaching. Go to HarryWilmington.com to learn more and join today. Lastly, if you've got a question you'd like answered on one of these shows, leave a comment below or write me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.